An incredible documentary is about to begin in Australian cinemas from the 15th of June, a film called The Last Daughter. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to Brenda Matthews, who is the co-director with Nathaniel Schmidt of her own story. So, Brenda, tell me, welcome to Movie Metropolis. Tell me about your process of telling your story via this film.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful process, because in our culture, we've always shared stories and passed them down through the generations. So to be able to tell it differently now in film form and book form and speaking, that amazing ways of getting the story out there.
It is
such a wonderful process. And
look, definitely. And your story is such an interesting one about your white family and your original family, and the whole story of the way indigenous people have been treated and so on. It must have been an interesting process for you to reveal all of that in the film.
Yeah, it was an interesting process, and just going back through story, but also bringing up the past and the trauma and the hurt and the pain that also came along with it. But finding joy through that story also, and healing, and working together with all these people who really wanted to support me in helping share the story. Wonderful process.
And it's so interesting, and as you say, it's a more positive sort of approach to this stolen generation storyline in many respects. Tell me about your initial experiences in terms of being taken away from your family, original family, and being adopted by this white family and so on. That must have been quite a situation for you.
I didn't realize it at the time, but going back through stories helped me to understand my story, and helped me to understand the hurt and the pain that I carried, that I didn't realize I carried. Leaving my white family, then returning home, only to feel disconnected from my black family, and felt like my white family had abandoned me and rejected me. So for a long time, I carried the trauma of their rejection and their hurt and their pain, what I thought that they had done to me, but also being placed in my black family and feeling like an intruder in their family. I thought that family was all together. They knew each other. They had that relationship, but I realized that they were also taken too.
Again, such an interesting story, and your experiences with your white family were pretty good. So it must have been quite difficult to discover, as you did the research for your film, what actually happened and why they had to return you.
Yeah, because I was only 2 when I was taken away from my indigenous family. So when I went to their family, their process and thinking, they thought they were adopting me, and to then be told that, you have to take her back to her family now, they couldn't understand that process, because they always thought they were adopting me, and yeah, they couldn't understand why they had to give her back, and mum and dad couldn't understand why we were taken, because they did nothing wrong. That wasn't even our house we were taken from.
Exactly.
So on both
yeah,
sides, it was a big injustice done on both sides.
Exactly. And that's what I've really felt through this film, the injustice by government and by authorities who have really manipulated to some extent your life.
Yeah. Crazy.
Crazy, yes, exactly. So having cameras there to film the families and talking to them and getting the real truth and all that sort of thing, that must have been an interesting process for you, and working with Nathaniel, I suppose.
Yeah, it was a wonderful process, because I'm so thankful that Nathaniel did ask me to co-direct the film with him. And, it became a wonderful relationship. He sort of became like my son. So I adopted him, So, yeah, it was a beautiful process. But to understand, go through story and to do the recreation scenes and watch these young kids and, the adults playing the story out in front of me helped me to understand my story, because I didn't before, because I was so young when I was taken. So now, being older and to go through story and to be able to understand it help me better to heal that way. But also the collaboration between me and Nathaniel was an indigenous framework. So it was like a reciprocal framework, like a Banam Gogon, Gogon means older brother, which is who holds the knowledge, and Banam is younger brother, which is stronger brother. So it was a support system on either side.
How,
but also,
you go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, but also whoever held the knowledge in that space of, Nathaniel was Gogon for the film space, and I supported him in that space as Banam, and vice versa. I'm Gogon for sharing my story, and he's Banam to me, supporting me through the camera lens of sharing my story.
Yes, I like that sort of reciprocal sort of situation. That works really nicely.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, the recreation aspects of the documentary are really interesting too. That must have been a bit of a task to get that right.
Sorry, what was that?
It must have been not easy to get the recreation process of the going back to your past and how that all worked.
It was helpful to have the siblings, but also mum and dad on both sides help share that recreation scene, so I could, we could put that into play with the children, and it was such a wonderful process being able to do the casting and that. I didn't want to leave anyone out because they were so, so beautiful. But we had to find the right source of children or the adults to play these roles, and it was just a wonderful process for me, to be able to do that.
Okay. And and I suppose the revelations that come through in your story as the filmmaking process continued were really so personal for you, and the way you reacted must have been very personal.
Yeah, it was very personal going along, and picking the cast, but also reliving the experience was such a painful one, but like I said, it was such a joyful one, and to be to understand the healing process that I was going through while I was sharing it. It was like a roller coaster of emotions, but it was helpful to go through all the emotions to get to where I am now.
Absolutely. What's your situation today with everyone involved and so on? And have they seen the film?
Yeah, most of them have seen the film. I think all of them really have seen the film. And, that was such a wonderful process to do everything with everyone who was involved. They're amazing. The producers and the cameraman, the soundman, even the wardrobe, and, even the fellas who were bringing around food. It was just such an inviting environment to be around, each and every one of them.
Okay. And tell me about the editing process as well, because making any film, any documentary in particular, the hardest part, I suppose, is the editing. How did all that work?
Oh, that was a wonderful process. David Scarborough was such a wonderful editor to work with, and some bits you don't want to take out, and some bits you have to take out. They say kill your darlings, I think, in that process. So, that was a hard one to kill your darlings, so to speak. To bring it to what it is. That beautiful story of both black and white today.
Yes, exactly. It contributes so much to our present situation. How are you hoping? How are you hoping the film will roll out? Because I know it's going to cinemas June 15th, and will it also be seen overseas?
I'm hoping so. I think we're all hoping so, you know, because it's such a universal story, you know,
Mm.
we all hurt, we can all be healed, you know. So, and I can't go on this healing journey on my own. I need, you know, people to come on that on with me so they can help share this healing story, you know, in whatever country we live in, because there's division in all these countries now that we live in. So
Mm.
how do we find a healing story, or where do you find home when you can't, when home doesn't look like home?
Mm. Very valid point. In terms of the politics, in a sense, of the film, because as you say, it's a healing film in many respects for you and for the families. Will you be hoping perhaps that it will be politically seen by government or by other people, and maybe part of the Yes campaign, assuming you're supporting that?
I think you're one of the first people to ask me this, but we didn't. It never was meant to be a political thing. It was just sharing a story out of love and forgiveness, and hopefully people can get what they can out of the story through their own story and make that connection, you know. But yeah, like if things aren't done from the heart, you know, we're always going to be leading with our heads, and our heads can lead us anywhere when, you know, we're not thinking straight or thinking right. So yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Has this film, making this film, given you a taste to make more films?
Yes, it has. It has.
Okay. Anything planned at all?
I do have something planned, and I think it's a sort of follow on from where I am now and where the film is now. So hopefully, yeah, it's going to be an awesome, you know, sequel, so to speak.
Okay, terrific. Well, look, congratulations on the film. It really is a fine documentary, and hopefully it will do well in cinemas.
Hope so, and hope
And
we can spread the word and help share the word out there.
yes, and as it's rolling out, you'll be doing some Q&As with the film, that sort of thing.
Yep, doing that now, and still probably doing some more when the film comes out. So yeah, it's been an awesome experience. It's wonderful.
And I suppose it's always interesting to get audience responses to the film and what they ask you and so on.
Yeah, because that's I think that's where I thrive, and that's where my compensation is, so to speak. You know, the lovely feedback and the comments that people give, and the connection that they have to my story through their own story, you know, and their own lived experience. It's a wonderful thing. And I hear on both sides, you know, I had a little white sister too, you know, or I had a little black sister or brother, you know, the same thing on both sides. So yeah, it's such a universal story.
It certainly is. And that's The Last Daughter. And we've been speaking to the co-director and the personal story of Brenda Matthews. Brenda, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Pleasure. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.